No, every time you change the litter box, you're just like, I gotta poop in that.
No, they come running. They're like, it doesn't smell like me anymore. And the minute it smells like them, they're like, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to poop on your shoe. It's like, I want 1 to 3 of my movements in there. Any more than that, and I will go wherever I want.
Yeah.
And if it's too clean, I might still go wherever I want. It's like, fuck you. Mm-hmm. Go get a job at your own house.
Welcome once again to Noah's Snark. Two former religious types and current snarks take a look at religious media on its own terms.
Hi, I'm Kat.
And I am Josh, a.k.a. King Petty.
Okay.
So, you may have noticed with our intro, Hillary did not introduce herself.
No, she did not.
Because she did not attend this latest event with us.
She left us.
And so it's just us two to talk about it, but it's going to be a real good time, because when she eventually hears this, it'll be mostly the first time she's hearing all of this crazy stuff.
I specifically did not tell her about it. I was like, if you're not going to come and you're not going to record or be our straight man, then you don't get to hear it until it comes on the waves.
But yeah, so I did promise there would be a special guest, because I knew Hillary wasn't going to be able to make it. Which is why we brought in Kat. You may remember her from our A Matter of Faith episode, which I think is one of our best ones.
I'd just like to point out that I was not the first choice. You asked Savannah first.
Well...
And it came to me the day of when she was sick.
What am I supposed to do?
You should always invite me.
Yeah, you're right.
It could have been me and Savannah.
That's true.
We did take Liz, though. But Liz did not have the chance to record.
We'll get there.
Okay.
So first, before we talk about who was there, what the circumstance was, why don't you, Kat, tell me what we are doing today? What we are talking about today.
We're talking about the Tribulation Trail today, Josh. And, it was a lot.
It was a lot to experience,
It was basically like, it was like those live nativity scenes, except there was several of them back in the woods, and they were all horrible and not happy, and there was no little baby Jesus smiling at a donkey. There was a lot of screaming.
Well, you've essentially already started. Why don't you go ahead and describe this in one sentence?
In one sentence, it is a bunch of overly earnest, mostly teenagers, hysterically trying to convince you that it is not only the end times now, but that you need to prepare for the rapture.
Yeah. My one sentence...
in a very specific way. Like, there is no just being good.
That's fair. My one sentence is 4 words. Left behind in 4D.
That's very accurate.
So that's what I think it's best described as. If you haven't gotten the idea yet, the Tribulation Trail is an event put on by a church in Stockbridge, Georgia. They have been running for several years, possibly decades, where they take you through 13 or so scenes, they call it, where they basically show you what's going to happen in the end times. Primarily post-rapture, though not exclusively.
Yeah, they lead up to all this. They start off scary, and then they end off even scarier. And then at the very end, there's, and I'll say this now, that there's a priest who is there to catch you. When you're all nervous and vulnerable, they're there to catch you and save your soul. Yeah,
the very last thing is not technically a scene. It's just a regular priest who wants to convert you.
No. Yeah, and the thing is, this is obviously, those are pretty permanent sets. Like, there were pieces of cars back in the woods. Like, they probably leave it there year-round.
Let's move on to how we got here.
How did we get here, Josh?
As we know, I found this place and I really wanted to go. I did invite someone before you, Kat, but she wound up getting sick.
That was the Lord.
So the
Lord wanted me there.
She wasn't able to get there, but we got Kat instead, and it was great. I also brought along a friend of ours, Liz, who is not here to record with us, but was present. And I'm going to do my best to represent her perspective from what I know of it.
So much damage was done that night.
I might have overstepped.
We both said before we started, like, we didn't really know what was coming.
I didn't know exactly what was coming.
I I was like, oh, they're going to try to tell us, like, love Jesus. I had no idea they were willing to go to those lengths.
Mm-hmm. One thing I want to note about Liz especially is that she was weirdly nervous. It's because I picked everyone up and we drove to Stockbridge. She was weirdly nervous, but then once we arrived, so was I.
No.
I was like, I don't know what's about to happen.
No, when we got to, like, True Country, Liz was like, but when we actually pulled up to, like, the dark church and, like, saw, like, the bonfires and, like, the masses of people, I was like, and my mom and dad are both from Alabama. I grew up going to small little towns. I'm not scared of small towns or country people or people, godly folk or any of them, but that was a different experience.
It was, right when we arrived, I was like, oh God, did I make a mistake?
I was a little nervous, and when we first started, like, Liz and I were holding hands. I was like, she's like, can we hold my hand? I was like, gladly. I would love to hold your hand and pretend I'm doing it to keep you from being scared. When it was just as much for me.
So before we go into the specifics of what we did at each little station, let's talk about some of the ambiance.
Okay.
First things first, I bought a t-shirt.
Yes, you did.
Because I really wanted it. It will be on Instagram, because I do have it, and I took a photo in it. But basically, it's a Tribulation Trail shirt. It has a sign on it. One thing I'm disappointed in. Some of the t-shirts there had the same picture, except at the bottom it said, the end is near. Then the near was crossed out, and it was here written above it.
Yeah.
And I wanted that one.
That was actually pretty metal.
It was super fucking metal.
Like, when you look at a shirt, like, if you first glance at the shirt, like, you would think it was a metal band's shirt. Right. It does not look like Jesus at all.
But apparently the one that I got with my ticket was not that one. And I wasn't going to pay, like, $12 more for a different one. So I was like, whatever, that's fine.
They probably just do, like, that was probably, like, last year's design. And
I wanted last year. Last year's design was fucking metal.
I mean, the one you got was, like, last year's design. And this is, like... That's this year's
that's
design.
Rude.
I mean, you gotta watch out from shifty Jesus people.
Yeah.
They never feel bad about shifting and taking your money because they're gonna use it for the Kingdom Project.
Now, we got to listen to some gospel music while we waited.
Oh my God, did you cut out all of that horrible karaoke?
No.
But they had one of those shitty karaoke machines, and to entertain people, not only did they play the videos of the gospel and modern day gospel music, which is, like, that one guy.
Kirk Franklin.
Yeah, I was like,
great.
this guy's rad, fine. I mean, I don't really want to listen to him, but this is actually good music.
Yeah.
But then they took a shitty karaoke machine and gave it to people. And there's always that one bitch in every crowd who's like, I don't really know how to sing! And then they continue to sing and squawk for 15 minutes. I know I don't know how to sing. You know what I don't do? Grab a shitty karaoke microphone in front of 50 strangers and make them listen to me. God,
now, there were a lot of people.
And we had to stand there for a minute.
We had to stand there for, it was about 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Just waiting.
It was like a crowd in cowpen railings.
It's weird because I'm pretty sure the tickets I bought were in advance, and they were for the earliest time in the day.
And we got there on time.
And yet, I think people were ahead of us, which was weird.
There's definitely a group ahead of us, and they were only doing this in groups of 50. And that was actually really disconcerting, because I realized there's, like, at least 1 or 2 groups ahead of us, and there's, like, 3 or 4 behind us, and more people were arriving. And I'm like, oh, damn.
Yeah, there's hundreds of people a night.
Yeah. I would not be surprised if there was, like, 1,000 people went through that night.
Yeah, not surprising at all. There was bonfires. People were having fun, mostly.
Yeah, there's hot dogs for sale.
Yeah.
There was 3 bonfires. No, like, if it had been, like, a corn maze, I would have been all about hanging out there all night.
That would have been fucking great. Oh my God, I would do a corn maze.
Bonfire, hot dogs, like, you know. But no, it was not a corn maze. It was not a corn maze.
Yeah, that seems like all the ambiance we need.
Yeah, but it was definitely, like, small town. Like, it was pitch black out there.
It was.
They had all the tiki torches were made from Coke cans, which I thought was clever. But, like, yeah, it was literally paths lit with tiki torches, bonfires, a few lights, but mostly just dark.
Yeah.
And there's no skyscrapers or light pollution to make it lighter.
And me and Liz had a conversation because she was, as you were, I guess, completely unfamiliar with Kirk Franklin. Even though that man can make some interesting tunes.
No.
It's gospel, and I'm not into gospel, but he's just...
Yeah, he's got rhythm. He's got music.
It's just good to hear. It's just fun.
I wasn't mad at it.
Yeah, but the other stuff was lame, because gospel music is lame.
I mean, well, modern day gospel.
I don't know about old.
I like old school gospel.
So let's talk about the very first thing that we got. We were brought to, in our little group of 50. Mm-hmm. It was supposed to be 48, but he said, let's just count that as 50, because count that as 48.
We were 51. And he was like, well, just because it was 48 people, he's like, oh, there's 3 of you, but we'll pretend it's 50. And I was like, thank you for not separating me from my friends, because I would have had a problem.
Yeah, we would have had to go into a different group, because we were not.
Abso-fucking-lutely not.
Separate Liz. Like, hey, Liz,
oh my god, that would have been so cruel and so awesome.
So
Bye, Liz.
We were introduced by a woman who seemed pretty normal and friendly. Except, she did a little bit of fear-mongering right to start. About the fact that we all have debit and credit cards because they are little microchips that we carry around on us at all times.
Well, and she so first she started with the chip, and then she pulls her fucking phone out of her pocket. I'm like, you're probably the dumb bitch who doesn't know how to turn off your location. Mm-hmm. If you're that paranoid, get a Faraday box. Oh, that's right, you don't believe in science. Never mind.
But
yeah, I wonder what the chip was, and of course that comes up later. I was like, specific, but then the part was, it was a chip in your phone I can get behind, but the debit card chip, really, you think that's tracking your movement?
It's a whole thing, and a lot of this conversation is going to make a little less sense if you're not very up-to-date on modern Southern religious eschatology.
Well,
what they think is going to happen with, like... Let's give a quick rundown. If you heard our Left Behind episode, it's basically that. Yeah. But the rapture happens, someone takes over the world, they insist everyone take this mark of the beast that...
And it's either going to be specifically above your eye or in your wrist. Right. Like, they're really specific about this.
You need that mark of the beast in order to buy, sell, or trade, or do anything like that. And if you don't get it, the man who takes over the world, it's always a man, who takes over the world is going to hunt you down and kill you. That's essentially Cliff Notes version.
And it's...
and so when she starts with this...
It's like worst preppers. Like, the worst of preppers.
Right. So this idea of, what about that chip you carry around you in your debit card, is to get you the idea of like, oh, those microchips, they're going to be used against you, blah, blah, blah. Which is obviously, I think pretty obviously ridiculous, but, you know.
Yes, the way they were talking about it. But, I mean, of course, sure, be concerned about people hacking your computer and turning on your camera on your phone. Yeah. Or obviously be worried about it. Don't be dumb about it.
But following her little introduction about, just to get us in the right mood, we get what I thought was an extremely strange video.
It was people shadow puppets.
Yeah, they were little shadow puppets of people.
It was people dancing, but you always saw it was like their shadows. It was obviously modern dancers. Mm-hmm.
The first thing of it was God created man, and it made a little man, but he had no head.
Yeah, no, because a hand came down.
Yeah, a shadow hand.
It was pulling, obviously being made out of clay, because that's what people made of, and it pulls it up until it was a person.
Yeah.
And he pulled up the woman.
But then he didn't have a head. I was like, what the fuck? Ah!
Well, it took a minute for the head to pop up.
But then he put his little hand down again, popped the head on, and it's like, I hope that's not how that went.
Did you ever find that video? Did you look for it online?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Okay, we're going to have to find it. It's somewhere online, because it was obviously someone got an art grant.
Yeah.
And so it's like the modern dancers and the very melodramatic voice.
Yeah.
Way oversimplifying all of the complicated stories.
But they essentially start with Genesis.
Right.
This is to let us know that we're going to skip right to the end.
I mean, let's please not leave out the fact that it's all woman's fault, because that point has to be driven home every single fucking time.
Yeah. They never let you forget that it's all the women's fault. Nope. Which is...
Sure don't. But that's why I bleed all painful once a month. It's my curse for betraying Jesus.
That's right. You did.
And I'm like, and what about the other primates? Why do they bleed?
Yeah.
And the other mammals? Did they piss God off?
It's not at all related to evolution, because we know that's not true.
Right. Yeah.
It's just facts. So.
I guess the human female's betrayal is so big that it passed off to all the mammals.
That's it.
The shockwaves were felt through all the mammals. Yeah. And all female mammals must be punished because of Eve.
One thing I wanted to state up front, and Kat alluded to it earlier, is I have a recording of this entire experience on my phone. Mm-hmm. It's about an hour and a half long. Not all of that is necessarily the walk through the trail, but...
I heard you buy your t-shirt again.
Exactly.
Okay, this is one thing I actually wanted to make clear, from the beginning. I am very aware that, we went in these people's backyards.
Yes.
I left my place. I came to their place.
Yes.
I came to their thing. It'd be like them showing up at, my Pride Parade. Go home. This isn't for you.
But
we were respectful. Right. I did not go to make fun of anyone's religion. I was honestly like, what do you do?
I just wanted to experience this.
How do you, on Saturday, you do. And, like, for the first half, I wasn't really upset or bothered. I was like, this makes sense. This is kind of, normal. But the second half, like, my biggest feeling was shame on you. Like, literally shame on you. I wasn't mad. I wasn't like, oh, you believe in Jesus, you're dumb, or you believe this, you're dumb. I was like, shame on you.
So let's move on to the second event. They say there's 13, but when I was taking the notes, I counted at least 14. So. Oh, okay. Good point. But second, we meet Alex. Yeah. Alex is our main character of this adventure. Alex is dead. What happens is she has been in an accident or apparently shot.
So that was the thing. So, because you walk down a dark tiki torch and coke can path, you get to a dark spot. And there's two people. You got a person in front with the flashlight, you got a person in the back with the flashlight. They are marshalling you along. They do not like it when you dawdle.
No, they don't.
So they, like, get you there. They, like, line you up.
I was right behind the front lady.
I know. I was trying to keep up, but Liz was being slow. And so you can kind of tell the scene. So then the lights turn on. So before the lights even turn on, you all of a sudden, out of nowhere, hear gunshots. There were so many fucking gunshots. So I was like, bam, 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 bam.
That's right.
Then, like, the loudest siren noise in the world. Like, you literally, like, jump 10 feet. Poor Liz, like, she hates that shit. She hates jump scares. Like, she would have already lost it at that point. Lights come on. Bloody girl on a gurney. Another very earnest 14-year-old acting like EMT. Acting her little heart out.
Now, I would point out, the gunshots that you hear may or may not be related to this scene.
No, she was shot.
Yes, these gunshots were related, but it is not uncommon during this experience to hear booms and gunshots and other things. No, I see what you're saying. Screaming.
Like, guns were directly part of, like, 7 or 8 scenes.
Right.
So all you heard the whole time was just gunshots.
You can often hear someone having dialogue. Oh, if only I had crack, 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 crack. Yeah. And you're like, what the fuck is he waiting for?
And let's not forget, it's deer season. I'm in the woods. And I have been trained that when I'm in the woods in deer season and you hear gunshots, take cover.
Right. So that's just... But these gunshots were related. You're right. Liz was not a fan of the jumps, and it was not the last time there was going to be loud noises.
No.
But Alex is dying or dead, and the EMT is trying to save her. As this is happening, an angel comes out from behind the ambulance. And this was when I was still somewhat amused by this experience.
Oh, no, this was fine.
Because I saw that angel, and I did, just for a second, start laughing.
No, this was all fine. I was like, okay, yeah, I mean, you know, if you do believe in all that, then it's like, hey, make sure you get it all straight before you die, which is good advice for anything. Don't have any regrets, because it could be over tomorrow. That's fine. All of this was fine. This is the part where I was just totally fine with it. Even though it was played from some very over-earnest children. And I immediately pictured their table in the cafeteria at lunchtime. And it was like all the smug Christian kids. All the smug Christian kids sitting together, and then, like, judging all the non-Christian kids, and occasionally, like, breaking away to, like, go sit at your table while you're trying to do your math homework and talk to Jesus.
But this one wasn't super interesting.
No, the front half I didn't really have any problems with.
So let's move on to the third. We watch another video this time.
Oh, God.
And it's about how the end of the world is obviously nigh, because life is a nightmare. And to be fair, life is a nightmare. They showed basically every horrible thing that's happened for the last,
started, 10 years or so. Hiroshima, and, then all the hurricanes.
One thing I want to say in their defense, because I don't think we came away from this experience with the best impression of this church, they do think climate change is a real thing.
Yeah.
And that it's a sign of the end times, which,
I mean...
But at least they believe it's real.
Sure. Well, and I think this is where I have a problem, is not so much, like, I've read and interpreted ancient text, and this is how I read it. It's like they're so sure of this one particular version that, like, it got to the point where, like, it got up, because they kept showing the years, like 2000, 2010, and then they decided to show me what 2060 is going to look like.
Did they?
Yeah, dude, they went totally in the future, and I'm like...
What was 2060 like?
Just more dumb stuff.
Okay.
More like them controlling you with barcodes and shit.
Oh, I didn't remember that.
Like, this is when it started to take subtly, and it got way more later, like a science fiction prepper turn. And I was like, you don't get to tell me what happens in 2016 because you don't fucking know.
They also don't appear to be big fans of Trump, which was fun for me.
Dude, yeah, no, they totally, like, painted him as part of the downfall.
Which is fair, because if there's going to be a downfall of the country and or humanity, and this is, of course, my personal opinion, because in most of this video, everything Trump did was cast in a negative light, because he's a piece of shit. But
well, yeah, because it was like, you know, all these crazy headlines and like news clip things, and like the big hurricane, and they do like Trump's face. It's like, really?
Yeah.
It was surprising. I think because a lot of, like, you know, your truly good, godly people out there, I use that not demeaning way, like, they don't respect him.
Yeah. And to be fair, this is a Baptist church, and a lot of Baptists are black. A lot of our crowd, a lot of the...
Oh! Yeah.
Yeah. And
we were the only... Me and Liz were the only white people in our group.
Might have been.
I think it was all black people in our 50-person group.
I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised.
No, so, well, Baptist, you know, well, depending. But, like, yeah, there's a lot of black people, and also, like, they don't put up with talking with women like that.
Yeah.
You don't say that about a Baptist mom or a Baptist's daughter or wife.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's just one of those things. And I wanted to clarify, I wanted to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it was very interesting, the come together thing. It was really interesting, the confluence of all the different, like, I would think were disparate, like, thoughts. Like,
yeah.
Like, really, you think this and this in the same time in your head brain? Like, that's unusual.
Well, let's move on to number 4.
Yes.
We're back to Alex. We are seeing her house, 316 John Way.
Yeah. Yeah. It took me a minute.
That's where she lives. She is invited to the tent revival that's happening right down the street, but she refuses. And then a friend of Alex's comes by, and they mock the religious lady just a little bit. Uh-oh, that's not good.
They tell her they don't like people telling them how to live.
Now, it is worth noting, and I noticed this as I was going through the recording I made, that when we first got to this scene, we were initially overwhelmed by the screams of children happening further down the trail, and could barely hear the beginning, where Alex is sort of realizing this is her childhood home.
Yeah, we'll get to that point. So this is, okay, so you know what I was thinking during this scene? I was like, but wait, they've already started, because we're like, you know, we're a couple scenes down, they've already started the next group, and then I realized that they chose androgynous names.
Yeah.
So the script doesn't have to change. I was like, I bet you there's another little kid actor back at the ambulance, and it doesn't matter if it's a boy or a girl, they just say Alex. And then the tent lady who came up was Chris. And I was like, damn, because like when she followed us and she came to a couple more scenes with us, I was like, there's no way that they're having this one actor. And I was like, oh damn, they got like 2 people. And I was actually kind of impressed.
At least 2 people, yeah.
I was like, all right, like they thought about this.
It should be said, this is a good time to say it, the mechanics of this were pretty good.
Pretty good for, you know, an amateur, just like volunteers on the weekend kind of thing. And they have that little beep, beep, beep to let you know that, like, you start to end your scene.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, shit, that's what that was for. That's right.
Yeah. Because it was like, because it would be beeping as we got up to it, which meant that our little guard people, hustler people who hustle us along were on time.
Yeah,
and then sometimes, like, the scene would be going on past the beep, and they would get all anxious at the actors for going too long.
It would be difficult to argue that it was not a well put on production.
No, it was way more superior than any nativity play.
The worst parts about it were not the production, it was the message, everything about it, but not actually the work itself. Good.
Yeah.
Good, if not great.
So we see the tent lady say, hey, come to our tent revival. And then, but like, the thing that really got me, the part that bothered me about that part was because she was like, hey, you like music? You like dancing? How about I, like, buy you pizza and give you $5? Oh, I'll give you cookies or brownies and give you $5 if you come. I'm like, oh my, are you bribing children?
Yeah, I mean, for $5, I'd do it for like an hour.
No.
Not much longer. And a tent revival is an all-day affair, but like for $5, yeah.
It was just, I don't know.
For my part, I was very excited about what was coming up next because we heard all the screaming and stuff. I was like, I gotta know what's coming up next.
I just said, yeah.
And we will get there shortly because we're moving on to part 5, the tent revival.
This scene was probably my favorite.
Okay. You want to tell us about it?
I love this scene because I say actor, obviously he was a pastor or, you know, if not actually ordained, like, you know, one of the deacons or something. But yeah, you walk in this huge tent, and there's a few people sitting down, and it looks just like a revival tent, and the guy is like halfway through a song, and so of course we walk in, and obviously it's a Baptist song, because everyone in our group starts singing along.
I did not know it.
This is the thing that was interesting about the thing, too, was there was the thing that was going on in front of me that was disturbing me, and there's the people around me's reactions that really bothered me.
Okay.
Because it was like talking to the most naive.
Before you continue, this is a good time to mention that shortly after we started, I got separated from Kat and Liz. Because you two hung out together. I was following our lead person very closely, but I couldn't usually see you guys.
Yeah, we kind of caught up later.
Yeah, so tell me about
But so I'm surrounded by, you know, and it was mostly middle-aged people, but, like, I was just, like, every time someone would say something, like, really basic or simple, they'd be like, and I'm like, are you really reacting this strongly to, like, every little bit of stimulus that happens in your life?
See, I did not have that. My people were...
I would hate to see them at a fireworks show. They'd probably pee themselves.
My people were very engaged. There was one woman in particular who was very jumpy every time something loud happened, which is fair.
Hey, there's a lot of gunshots and screaming.
But there was relatively little of that. There was usually not a lot of audible reaction to it.
I don't know if it was just my luck that who I was standing next to, but it was the reactions, and it was.
But we got a couple gasps, stuff like that.
Yeah,
but
gasp and
my side of things, because you seem to be more in the back, was less active in that sense.
I had because we kept getting stuck behind all the slow walkers because they spread like 5 across the trail, and so we're behind them. And slow walkers are usually associated with people who are easily entertained with the littlest things. But the revival, so the pastor's up there preaching away, and there was a lady in a gray wig playing Alex's grandma who kept trying to make her go. And so obviously this is the tent revival that happened after she got shot. So they're like, and then it was just like, it was so, I'm like, I know it's a play and they're trying to get a point across, but it's in the middle of revival. He points to this grandmother, brings up her dead grandchild, and says the worst part is we know she never accepted Jesus, which to these people means she's burning in a fiery pit forever.
Which we'll get to.
And I'm like, what are you doing to the grandma?
Yeah, I remember that too. I was like, why would you call out grandma like that? What the fuck?
Yeah, no, like, you just were horrible to grandma. And then the lights go out.
The lights go out, there's a rumbly in our tumbly, and everything goes
Very good production quality, by the way.
Yes. It literally did feel like it wasn't shaking, but it felt like it was...
It was some good bass.
This is where the rapture happens, because when the lights come back on, the preacher's missing.
Grandma's gone.
A lot of the people are missing.
Right.
And I'm curious how they did it, because I didn't notice anyone moving. Like, it was dark out, but it was not pitch dark out. So how did they get away?
Well, I think because you weren't, like, staring at the pastor. Like, because I was actually looking around for the speaker.
Yeah.
And because it was very sudden. Like, all of a sudden, he was mid-sentence, all of a sudden the lights were gone.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he, like, stopped for dramatic emphasis.
But, like, he wasn't a small dude. I'm surprised he, like... Like, that's not, like, an insult. It's just,
I think he just ducked down behind his podium.
I was looking around.
Did you really?
I don't know if I got all the way around it, but I was like, I don't think he's back there. So I think him and Grandma just, like, got up and, like, bolted.
Well, Grandma, I think, was played by a teenage boy. So.
Okay. But still, man, like...
Yeah, it was good production. But that was, like, my favorite scene, followed by my least favorite scene.
This might be my favorite because it's the craziest one. So moving on to scene 6. A horrific encounter as many children scream and shout at the top of their lungs as their friends have either disappeared or been grievously wounded by the car accidents and all sorts of things that have happened as a result of the rapture.
Okay, so what I figured was that this is a car pileup.
Yep.
All these kids were in cars. The rapture happened. Enough adults disappeared. That there was just this massive car wrecks.
Yep.
And so you're not a girl.
Correct.
When you are 13, 14, there is this level of hysteria that girls get so easily, like with sugar or feelings, or I don't know what hormonal change is going on. And when you get a group of girls, all it takes, like every summer party is a disaster. Because it takes one fight, or a little too much sugar or something, and it's just shrill and screaming and just like crying and feelings. And this was literally 8 or 10 teenage girls just told to act sad and scared, screaming at the top of their lungs as shrilly and as intelligibly as they could, running back and forth. And the injuries, those are not car accident injuries.
Yeah.
None of them look like they've been in a car accident. They look like they got attacked by zombies.
Yeah,
and I literally thought to myself they're literally going to a Halloween party after this and pretend to be zombies. It was zombie, it was like bite marks. I'm like, this does not look like, you hit your head on a steering wheel.
Yeah, so I was happy.
It was horrible.
So I was happy because we finally got to find out what all the screaming was about from earlier.
Okay.
Now,
so shrill, you could hear it over half an acre.
Oh yeah, it was crazy. Now,
no speakers.
One thing, that's true.
There was no speakers. Everything else had speakers and microphones. No motherfucking speakers here, and you could hear it for half a mile.
I'm also not entirely sure that teenagers are supposed to be teenagers, or if they're supposed to be adults, because just so they happen to have teenagers around. I wasn't entirely sure. It doesn't really matter.
I don't know.
But basically, people are stuck in their cars, people are wounded, people have been hurt or killed, and it's all girls, I'm pretty sure, just freaking out.
No,
screaming. And it's fucking insane.
It's a slumber party with way too many pixie sticks, and then a fight breaks out between two factions.
Right.
That's the level of noise and just insanity that was happening.
So that was pretty weird. And we had to walk through this and see everybody freak out for
and
a while.
once again, I was behind the slow girls, and I'm like, ladies, step on it. I do not need to be around this anymore.
Yeah. So let's move on to scene 7. We go to a FAMA tent.
Oh, God.
Where they explain that millions of people have gone missing. Fortunately, the newly appointed world leader, Nikolaus Ralph Mayer...
Oh, you got the whole name.
...is taking care of things, and he is nothing short of a political messiah.
Political messiah, I remember that.
He's also founded the new global government named FAMA, Federal Aid and Munitions Alliance. They've come up with the perfect security solution. A small microchip that can be inserted either in the back of your hand or above the eye, and it's all relatively painless.
So when that happened, my ladies,
I had a couple of those too.
Everyone reacted very viscerally to that. That specific, because I didn't know what had happened until I talked to one of our bosses at work who was raised in this. And I was like, oh, is that why they kept making a big deal? Because she kept saying, eyebrow or wrist, eyebrow or wrist. You can get it right here. There's no scar, eyebrow or wrist. And I'm like, if you say that phrase one more time, this is right when my patients, I was fine until about here. Then the screen, then I was like, because until the revival scene, everything was pretty kosher. I'm like, you're trying to encourage people to, in your faith, to get right with Jesus because you can be swept away at any moment. The next half, I was just, disgusted. I wasn't even mad. I wasn't even a normal level. I was just like, you guys should literally be ashamed of yourselves. How can you sleep at night?
Now, the chip that you get has all of your information in it.
Your information.
That includes your banking, your personal, and your medical information. It also allows FAMA to provide you with food, water, supplies, and most importantly, track you down should you go missing. Now, this is all obviously presented as a security solution. If something happens to you, we can find you within seconds, they say.
So another mass evaporation, whatever they called it.
Right. So if anything happens, you're safe. And of course, the audience, since we should be familiar with this stuff, is supposed to be terrified. And apparently the women you were around were.
Very.
I had a couple of those, but there was a guy in front of me and he was like, don't want it.
No. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not exclusive to your group. You're part of the group. But they tell you that everyone in the world has 3.5 years to get this chip. But it is absolutely mandatory. At that point, all electronics are going to be updated, and they're going to exclude those without this chip. So, you gotta go ahead and get it.
No, they talked about the fucking electronic updates 1,000 times. You won't get any food, no toilet paper, no toothpaste, no mascara. I'm like... this one was a really long scene.
It was long. But they were trying to do exposition for what's happening.
Yeah.
If you're familiar with the
thing.
The Left Behind theology, that's what I'm going to call it. It's not what it's called, but that's what I'm going to go with.
No, that's a good phrase.
Yeah.
I like that.
What happens is, the rapture happens. There's a new global government. Someone takes charge. That person is the Antichrist. This sort of chip thing happens. This sort of mark thing happens. After 3.5 years...
Mark of the Beast. It's the Mark of the Beast.
It's the Mark of the Beast.
Specifically on the eyebrow of the wrist.
Yes, that's apparently in the Bible. It's not, but...
No, it's not. None of this is.
At 3.5 years, the Antichrist, who is in charge of the global government, is murdered. Assassinated. Uh-huh. But 3 days later, in a sort of reflection of Jesus, he comes back to life. But this is when Satan really takes over his soul. Now, he's been bad the whole time, but this is when he's officially bad because he is literally Satan. And that is what they're going to allude to later. They don't explain it quite as well as I just did, but the audience for this is familiar with the story.
They already know this.
So they don't need to be explained.
Like, okay, and here's the thing. We take an ancient document that has been translated into how many dead languages, okay, all the way up to us, gone through, like, you know, literally all these political translations. So you're going to take that ancient document, you're going to interpret it, then you're going to extrapolate from it. And so some motherfucker said somewhere that it's this, this, and this, and then all these other so-called priests and pastors and learned men of the Bible literally just report it. This is worse than 24-hour news process, where I say something incorrect, and all the AP picks it up, and the story's never corrected. It's like, I'm like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Oh, and here's my other point that I will bring up later. If you...
We'll bring it up later.
Well, because they're acting like all these people disappear, right?
All these people what?
All of these people disappeared. The rapture happened, and like the whole world's in chaos because so many fucking people disappeared.
Millions.
According to them, about 5 people should disappear. Like, literally, 5 people. Like, if the rapture literally happened tomorrow, no one would fucking notice. No one would fucking notice. There'd be, like, 1 person out of every 100 who go to, like, a certain church.
Well, one thing to bear in mind...
You know who'd be fine? Asia.
So one thing to bear in mind is it wouldn't just be 5 people, because every child
10.
would also disappear. 15. Usually they say around, like, 10 years old, every kid below that age disappears. All of them. Because they're not culpable yet.
They didn't tell me that part.
They didn't mention it, but that's usually part of it.
Because all I saw were screaming children.
I think the children were mostly supposed to be adults. But the children...
I might pay attention to all the children go away.
Yeah. So it's not just millions of adults, it's millions of...
It's not going to be millions of people. Their own rules are basically precluding everyone, including themselves.
So let's move on to the 8th part. In the 8th scene, we get to see some horsies.
Okay. I wrote down very specific things about this one.
Go ahead.
Okay. So it was supposed to be the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
Yes.
But instead of, like... So the horrible voiceover... This was the worst produced. This was the worst production. So it just had, like, some tombstones, and the light would change. They had, like, the blue light, and then they had, like, someone come out, hooded figure, and that was supposed to be, I guess...
the 4 horsemen are...
Death, pestilence, famine, and war.
Nailed it.
I do know my 4 horsemen.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's like, yours is the color of the...
color of blood.
The color of blood dripping down an infant's mouth. And he, like, that recording, so what he said was, like, so I guess I think it was War he said this to. He was like, go to every country on the world. And then he specifically said, Iraq, Palestine, Israel, England, America, China, Korea, Japan. I'm like, those are so fucking specific. It's like the guy, they're like, hey dude, record something for the Revelations, and he literally named every country that occurred to him.
Yeah.
And then...
They're trying to represent global, but yeah, they did name just major countries in.
And this had some of the worst language that was really, like, the fear-mongering, like, just, like, not even... Because you're not even taught, like, even if you consider this facts, like, you've deviated from your own set of facts. No, so they take this as facts.
Yes.
But, like, even for... You take this, what I don't consider a fact, but you consider it factual, but then they deviate from that. And, like, he said, like... Because he kept saying economic misery, and he's like, crash the stock market, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And I'm like, there was no stock market in the Bible. Like, and then he was like, get them so unhappy they moan deeply in their soul. And then he was like, make them so hungry so that they eat their own children.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, because when men get hungry, they'll eat their own children. And they kept saying, you want to say financial system, but then they said chemical agents, aerosols, all this shit. Yeah. And I was like, That's your extrapolation off of extrapolation of an extrapolation of a translation of a translation.
Well, I'm glad you remember so much about this because
that was really, really when I started turning against this whole situation. I was like, because we can argue that whether or not the Bible is factual. I can actually see your point of view, but now you're just gone cray-cray.
But I'm glad you remembered it because I had not paid that much attention to this. I thought this was the most boring.
It was when the language was really bothering me, and also like when it came up in the recording, I was like, oh yeah, this part pissed me off, and I went and found a Post-it. I was like, where's that pencil?
Okay, now we're on to the 9th scene. We get to see a holdout of Christians who are trying to live off the grid outside of Fama's watchful eye. They are talking about how they're holy warriors or something, which was a bit of a strange dialogue choice.
They were God's saints because they refused to bow down to Lord Nico.
Do not like that language.
Nope.
Oh, this is where we do see the first signs of Lord Nico, Nikko. This is the Antichrist, the bad guy in our story. One of them. But a girl.
Once again, very specific.
Yeah. A girl comes by looking for help because, in her words, Fama is trying to kill her and force her to get the chip. And because, of course, these are God's saints, they do decide to take her in and protect her.
And they hand her a bottle of water.
They hand her a bottle of water, and just as they let their guard down, she shouts, "All hail Lord Nico!" and shoots them in the back as her backup arrives and kills everyone who tried to run away.
Yeah, and then she runs up to the truck, and she was like, "Oh, hell, Lord Nico," to the audience. And I actually thought I looked at the little girl, I was like, she might be a pretty good actress one day. She's probably going to be in the school plays.
Yeah, this is just military efficiency. They mowed this entire group down easily.
Mowed all these children down. The children who were fighting over a plastic bottle, by the way, when we first walked out.
They were fighting over plastic. I assume there was water in the bottle. Water.
Still fighting over a bottle.
Yeah.
Screaming. No, because she was like, she had it yesterday.
And if it's unclear in our telling of the story, the audience here is supposed to be witnessing things that are going to happen in the end times. No, and then occasionally we're supposed to be actually participating. It's a little loose.
Yeah, no, but they're like, this is what's going to happen. Yeah. Just like this. And I'm like, you don't fucking know shit.
Well, we'll get to that at the end. But let's first move on to part 10. We are yelled at by a woman who's very upset with us about the fact that we have thus far refused to cooperate and align ourselves with Lord Nico and take his mark. All those who have risen up against him have been laid to waste, and we should take the name of the true Savior, Lord God Mair. He has even been resurrected from the graves, as he has suffered a grievous wound for the entire world.
Was that the 3.5 years thing?
Yes.
Oh.
See, this is why they refer to it, but they don't say it because...
They assume that...
They assume you know. And to be fair, most of the audience probably did.
We were the only ones who did not know.
You and Liz might have been the only ones.
Yeah. Liz and I were the only ones like, why is this... Like, yeah, because this is when we started being a little more interactive.
Mm-hmm. Yes, this is when it sort of shifts from witnessing what's happening to being part of it.
Yeah.
Because as she yells at us... You know, if we don't take the mark...
Waste your time, calling us maggots, all that kind of shit.
Right. And if we don't take the mark and do what we're told, we're going to die. So, you know, and this is sort of their message, like, her message, you better do it, and they're fed up with you. And now, fed up with our bullshit, the audience, we are huddled into a shipping container where we are forced to watch a video...
Literally a rail car.
Yep. And we're shipped into a container, and we have to watch a video of Lord Nico being very upset.
Very angry and very perturbed at us.
And he's yelling at us. And the highlight here was occasionally the video had some sort of effect on it, so that when he would say something, it would make him look like a sort of half-demon creature. Now,
this was great, because, like, it kind of, you know, when you're watching, like, Terminator movies?
Yeah.
And, like, also, like, their eyes starts to glow red, and you, like, they did that. So, like, his voice would kind of go weird, and then, like, one of his eyes would, like, it started to look...
like, gray or something?
Yeah, part of his face started to look like a skull with, like, a red eye. And I'm like, damn, like, they got some good AV people in this church. But, of course, the only other thing I could focus on is that that guy needed braces.
Yeah, his teeth weren't great. But, you know,
He's
Lord God Nicolaus.
I wasn't in the mood to be kind at that moment, so... That's what I was thinking.
Now, do you want to tell us what happens at the very end of the shipping container scene?
Oh, when the gas started coming out. Yeah, so he decided and this guy was not a great actor.
No, he wasn't.
And, because this was recorded, like, you had time to practice this.
Like, he wasn't, like, ridiculously bad.
But he wasn't horrible, but it was just, like, he'd be, like, mid-sentence, and then he, like, so then, literally, we're in a railway car, they start gassing us. Mm-hmm. And we're all sitting there in the dark, getting gassed. 50 people in this little car. And he's like, never mind, gassing's too good for you. I want to make you suffer more. Yeah. And I'm like, wow. And the thing that was really disturbing about that guy was he was obviously late 20s. Mm-hmm. And he acted and projected and talked like a teenager. Like, he was so arrested patriarchy. Yeah. I'm like, oh my god, you literally are like a 13-year-old boy in a grown man's body and you will never change.
Now, this was the effect.
Reminds me of that guy I dated. I told you about the guy who used to be an actor for Jesus. Yeah. I didn't know what that meant at the time.
So this was the effect. The point at which, during the whole thing, I was the most concerned. Because it was almost certainly water vapor. But it came out of this thing, and I was just like, what the fuck?
No, I was actually a little pissed. I was like, I did not sign a waiver.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy. Like, that's why I assume it's gotta be just like water vapor.
But even so, how they get it that, like, water vapor, it's gotta be at least dry ice or something.
It may be that, but it's gotta be a harmless thing. But I saw that gas come out. I was like, what the fuck is happening? I do not like this.
See, that was the difference, was because when she was yelling at us like this and they told us to get in that cart, I was like, you motherfuckers are fucking gas us. And I knew it. I knew it. I was like, they're gonna, like, they're totally holocausting us right now. Mm-hmm.
But we're moving on to scene 11. And we are now before Lord Nico himself. And he's got a bitchin' theme song.
Oh my god. I am so mad on Carl Orloff's behalf. They used Carmina Burana as the Antichrist.
Oh, that's what that was?
Yes, it's one of my favorite songs.
That song's dope.
Dun, 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 dun. I do not sing, so I don't know. But yeah, Carmina Burana, Carl Orloff.
It reminded me of a wrestler's theme song.
Yes.
Kane.
That song has been used in every good, like, mega battle scene in every epic movie ever. Yeah. And why do you gotta use classical music, assholes?
Because they can.
You can't make up your own theme, your own double theme?
It's probably like public domain or rights free and they can use it. But
you know that, like, as a result, there's parents who are now, like, banning their kids from listening to this music. Because it was Lord Nico's fucking... No, that's my first thought was, great, now all these people are going to associate good classical music with the Antichrist, and there's at least 5 people in my group.
That's why I'm going to listen to it now.
I have a really good remix of it.
So, Lord Nico comes out and he demands that we worship him. And upon our group's refusal, he tells his guards to go ahead and kill us. Guns are pointed in our direction.
I was so concerned at this point.
It began to get a little too real, I have to admit.
No, cause he yells at us and he yells at us. And he yells at us some more. And then, and none of us are giving in. And so then, it was 10 or 11, armed people, all in black fatigues, come running in front of us in a line. And
don't forget that an audience plant does come out of the audience, our group, and say, I will never worship you, and get shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, gets shot to the ground. And they had, and the guide people had stretched us out one by one, so we were in a line, so we're in a group. And they looked like they're about to mow us down. I was like, I don't think Liz is going to be able to handle this. Like, how have people not had heart attacks? And, right when they're about to mow us down, the lights go out. And I was like, oh, good save.
And guess what happens next? Jesus comes by on a horse, and he saves our lives.
Oh, that's right! Fat 45-year-old Jesus rode into the... You know what I thought? Because this scene, when you look at it, looks like a front from medieval time. And it's it's gray, and it has, the arches. Mm-hmm. I was like, dude, they totally make this the barn come nativity season.
Yeah, probably.
It looked very much like a nativity scene.
But Jesus runs out on his horse. On his white horse. And he tells him, halt! In my name, or something like that.
I forgot about that. Yeah. About Jesus rescuing
This is our first of 3 Jesuses, so we gotta get used to it.
This was 45-year-old overweight pure belly.
But he's on a horse, so, he knows how to ride. This is probably why he's this one, because he can ride a horse.
And because he's far away. And we don't look up close to him like the other 2 that are much better looking.
We just met Jesus, so now we're moving on to scene 12.
Oh, right.
And we watch an angel give us a summary about how every horrible thing that has happened since the rapture. Boils and plagues and just general horribleness. And even those who wish to die will not be given that mercy.
Oh, right. I remember that part. There's no point in taking your life. Mm-hmm. And this is all delivered by a very awkward 16-year-old.
Yeah, he did not.
Who could not say an entire sentence without, snorting.
Yeah, I guess I appreciate his commitment, but he was not into this.
In our boils. And other bad things my daddy told me. It's like, oh my god, honey.
Now, he does mention Alex. Remember her?
I do remember Alex. How could I forget Alex?
And how she refused to take the multitude of chances that she was given in this life.
All those chances to find Jesus.
And now we are given just a quick preview of heaven. Because her dead grandmother is in heaven. And she gets up out of her wheelchair and she's able to walk in a way that she couldn't here on Earth.
I totally spaced through that. I remember that.
This might actually be the worst one.
Because they turned the car light on, and that was like a car headlight on, and that was supposed to, and you dimly saw like a person moving, and that was supposed to be her like walking towards the light.
Yeah.
And I was like, she's walking towards a Chevy?
They played this like weird Jesus music. It was it was mercifully short, at least.
Incredibly short, thank God. And that was also that point I realized that I had taken over like 400 pictures and had to start deleting some.
Oh yeah, we were asked at the beginning not to take pictures.
No.
That's true. We were asked no flash photography.
She specifically said, don't record because the light will turn on in darkness and distract the people.
Right.
And there's a lot of kids. I remember, because you recorded it. We have it on recording.
I did record everything.
And she specifically said no flash photography. And I went, ha-ha!
We can do it without flash.
You did not say no photography.
So we moved on because that one was short. We move on to scene 13. And this one is interesting. We have Jesus on one side of us and Satan on the other. And they are arguing.
Oh my god.
Some more kick-ass music is playing when we arrive. And a never-ending fire is burning in the middle of the scene. I noticed right away that the only thing Kat was looking at was that fire.
It was incredible. Dude, okay, so what it looked like, it looked like a shallow reflecting pool. Mm-hmm. It was about 10 feet by 25 feet. Mm-hmm. Okay? And it's just clear liquid. Mm-hmm. And somehow there's this like ripple of flame in the middle, but it wasn't like, it was like little spouts of gas or little wicks. It kept moving back and forth. Yeah. Like something was burning that was moving back and forth. It was staying in the middle and not going to the edges.
Yeah.
And there's no obvious, like I was watching, it was just flames dancing on the surface of this liquid. And I was like, is it gas and water? Like how are they controlling the gas and how are they controlling water? Like I am so fascinated by this. And that is why I was mad, because I was full and I couldn't get a picture of my favorite part.
I was paying mostly attention, but when I saw you looking at that fire, I got distracted by watching you watch it.
I was listening.
No, I know, it was just funny.
But then
you were just like...
Well, because then I was like, it must... Because at first I was like, it's little gas things, like little gas... And I'm like, no. I was like, there's no wicks. I was like, the flame is just dancing on the liquid, but it's only staying in the middle and it's not going anywhere. I was like, Jesus? Is
this real? But the point of the scene is...
Really bad acting by Satan. Satan was not a good actor.
Satan is mostly amused by the depictions of him. With the horns and the tails and the pitchforks. When in reality, he looks just like anyone else.
Oh, God.
That makes it easy for him to trick people. To make them give up the eternal. At the throne of the temporary.
This is probably the most true thing said the whole time. If whatever evil there is does look just like us.
Except sometimes it's orange. Just like Alex, remember her? Living in the flesh.
I remember her. I remember her from the beginning. My brain works good.
She was living in the flesh, and she gave up so much for it. She was so easy to deceive, easy to talk her out of what she should be doing. Jesus retorts now that people have always taken for granted what he does for them. He could have saved Alex.
This is where Jesus started getting real petulant.
Oh, yeah. He could have saved Alex from what awaits her now, had she only asked, but she never did. So, in his own words, "Depart from me, I never knew you."
Oh my God. And then Jesus, number 3, says that so many more times.
Now, he and Satan argue some more, and it's coming down to a fight.
The longest argument between Jesus and Satan ever. It lasts, and but remember, it was supposed to be an hour. We're already like an hour and a half. Mm-hmm. We're fucking tired. We still got a scene, and we still got a preacher who's going to come preach at us.
So,
and I'm ready for it to be over.
Satan brags to Jesus that he has an entire army, but this, the loudest part of this entire event,
dude,
finally happens. It's a huge explosion sound.
I'm surprised that people did not tinkle, because it was not it was the loudest noise.
But the tremendous explosion wipes all of Satan's army out with one burst of fire from heaven.
Well, it was supposed to be a lightning bolt, but it literally was so loud it felt like a lightning bolt hit right next to you. Mm-hmm. Like, it was not like a recording.
Yeah. So now, there was a guy. You could see the guy.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not... I know. When we say there was a recording of a lightning bolt and it was really loud, people are like, well, duh.
No, there was a...
stupidly loud recording. Like,
it was like a firework or something, but it was loud as fuck.
Oh my god, it was so loud.
There was a guy in charge of it. You could see him there.
I saw the audio, guys. I'm just saying that, like...
But I'm like,
there's no words that can describe.
This wasn't an audio guy. This was a, like, pyrotechnic guy. Because he was sitting slightly off to the scene, but you could see him watching and waiting and like, hold on, when do I... And then he pushed it and it was incredibly loud.
That was a good production on that scene.
Yes. But anyway, Satan's army's been wiped out by Jesus, and he
just
warns
like that.
With Satan at Jesus' mercy. Jesus warns us that anyone who does not worship at his feet will suffer the same fate, and he sends Satan to eternal hellfire. So that's how that is.
Doesn't Satan like eternal hellfire? Like,
no, it's supposed to be pretty bad. The moral of the story is that he's never been in hell. He's been on Earth the whole time.
Oh, so you missed that? Mm-hmm. I mean, I just figured he'd pop back and forth like a chameleon.
No, he roams the Earth looking for his victims. Alright, we're on to the 14th scene, where we see a third Jesus casting judgment on those who have died.
Puerto Rican Jesus.
This was the only place in the entire event that they decided they did not need a functional speaker. And so it was pretty difficult to hear everything.
This part, in this one scene, is literally, in a nutshell, everything I have wrong with religion.
Yeah. So what happens here, essentially, is people come over, they've died, and they talk about their lives. Some of them are more sympathetic than the others. There's at least three of them.
Wait. So remember, Jesus is standing on top of a 15-layer wedding cake.
Yes.
It's like 15 layers of, like, just white and
steps,
stage, and it gets to him. And there's all the smoke. Mm-hmm. And on the right is a plywood cube.
Yeah, that's hell.
It's painted gray with a train tunnel opening. Mm-hmm. And inside you see fire. And once again, great real fire. And red lights.
Yeah.
And that's hell.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go to the wedding cake or you can go to
and this is the Great Throne Judgment, or the White Throne Judgment. One of those
where's
things.
that in the Bible?
I don't know.
Because it's not. Because people added it in later.
But this is where people come to Jesus and they say, but I was an alcoholic and I partied all the time. And he's like, well, I have no mercy for you. Depart from me. I never knew you.
But that's the thing, because the people who came up to him were like good people. Like the one was like, but I take my kids to church every Sunday and I volunteer with the homeless and I blah, blah, blah. And he's like, not good enough, bitch. Ha ha.
Depart from me. I never knew you.
But you didn't do it right.
Right.
You tried to be religious, but there's this little bit that you didn't quite get right, and so therefore I am literally standing in front of you, throwing you into the sulfur pit, and like being kind of happy about it because I'm a petulant child. Like I asked.
This is what Liz said she liked. She's like, I love petty Jesus.
Like at this point, you still have the ability to save these people.
Yeah.
And these people are dead, and they're going, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I guess I didn't get it right." Through your fucking magic book that's been translated 1,000 bazillion times, but I didn't know how to read your mind, so now I get condemned to eternity in a sulfur pit. And he's like, you didn't get it right, and you weren't at my feet. Be gone, I never knew you. And it's like, this is so problematic to me.
Oh no, it's horrifying. It's horrible. But we also finally get the conclusion of Alex's story.
And there comes Alex.
Here comes
our
Alex.
Our buddy from the beginning.
She tries to make her case.
She's been with us the whole time.
It doesn't work.
No.
Alex goes to hell.
She is screaming.
Loudly. Aggressively. Alex was a pretty decent actor.
She was not bad. Yeah. I mean, for like a 15-year-old.
Yeah, Alex was a decent actress, so I was into it. And that screaming, I was like, Alex, I miss you.
No, I was like, Alex, hop on the back.
But here's the thing.
Let's go.
And this is related to the point you were making. So we're watching all these people go to hell, and all of them are screaming, all of them are upset about it, Alex in particular. But they're all upset. And we're supposed to feel vindicated?
No, we're supposed to be smug.
That's so fucking crazy.
We're supposed to feel smug that somehow we figured out the little crazy, like, tiny variation of truth. That you had to get this thing right perfectly, or this is your future. And we are supposed to feel smug because those people going to church and that guy fighting for his country and being in the military and then, like, volunteering with, like, like homeless youth, aren't good enough, but we're good enough because we go to the right church.
Well, it's not that we're good enough.
We say the right words.
It's not that we're good enough. It's that through Jesus' sacrifice,
well, that's what I mean.
become...
They're right. They read the Bible exactly right to figure out the one little thing that actually gets you into heaven.
No part of me sees this scene and thinks, oh, that Jesus guy, that's the guy I should worship.
No, he's an asshole.
Right. Anybody who's going to condemn a person to eternal damnation and eternal suffering is not worth your worship. Well, they are a bad person. No. They're an evil, wicked, horrifying entity.
The way they presented Jesusosity, because I'm not even going to call it Christianity, they presented their crazy religion in this event, like, pretty much convinced me never, ever, ever to set foot in a church again.
Yeah.
And the thing that really pisses me off is because, like, I'm old school, like, classic church. I'm not one of these, like, breakaway sects, like the Baptists and Methodists. And no Catholic or Episcopalian, or probably Methodist, like, or Presbyterian, would get any of that shit out of the Bible. Because they actually read it like a historical text. They don't think that there's going to be an implant and eyebrows and that Lord Nico is going to take over. And, like, they don't read it like that.
But my overall point is this. It doesn't matter what
fuck that guy.
Sect you are.
Fuck Jesus.
If you believe in a hell, an eternal hell especially, your religion's bad. Sorry.
Well, and the thing that
it's not good.
Really,
it's fucking it's obscene.
No, obscene. It's insidious. The entire time was literally like it's like when people use like puppies to advertise beer.
Yeah.
And like or cigarettes. It's like you're obviously advertising cigarettes to children. You're an insidious human being. You should go to hell. But like my thing is, I never got that version.
Yeah.
I don't think the word hell was ever even said in my church. Like you can totally have Christianity without this insanity.
Right. And I'm not opposed to the concept of a religion.
No.
I'm just saying if you believe in an eternal hell and think that anybody deserves to go there, please find a new one. Well, there are better choices for you and the entire world. Just find a different one.
My thing is, when like these people, Jesusosity people, whoever, like not normal mainstream religion, when they present you with a list of things of all of these people go to hell, and you have to do all of these things and none of these things to get to heaven, I'm like, no, fuck you. I have to turn my back on my friends. I have to, like, be what I consider a horrible person. I'm like, I'll go to hell. I'm not changing myself to fit your crazy moral code.
When I say find a new religion, I know that most people don't actually choose their beliefs. There's very little influence that you can actively... But you can, like...
No, you get that excuse until the age of, like, 20.
No, you don't choose your beliefs. Like, I firmly believe that. You can influence them, you can try.
What do you mean you don't choose your beliefs?
You can't choose to believe something that you don't believe is true.
What?
A good example is if I wanted to stop believing in gravity. I can't just do it. That's not how belief works.
That's not belief, that's fact.
Well, right,
Give me another example.
No, it's a great example because it's countered by actual fact, I can't stop believing it, even if I pretend I want to.
You mean that...
If you believe this sort of theology, you can't just stop doing it. It is a process. But you could...
Oh, I mean, okay, no, it's not a light switch.
That's what I mean. You can't just, like, stop doing it. I think you could work towards
No, you educate yourself, and you read your own stuff, and you interpret yourself. You don't let someone yell at you.
You can't even necessarily help your own cognitive dissonance. I get that. But I'm just saying, if you believe in an eternal hell for people... Please find a way to get out of that.
No, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
There's something wrong.
It's just, at the very least, it's too vindictive for a person to feel good about.
No, yeah. How are you so smug that Alex, this teenager, was screaming for forgiveness and got thrown into eternity of fire?
But after getting through the petty Jesus scene...
Oh, God, petty Jesus.
We are at our last thing. And our group is brought to...
We were supposed to be free.
What do you mean?
We were supposed to be done.
Oh, I know. But we're brought to an actual pastor at the church who hosted this event and are given a proper opportunity to accept Jesus Christ as our Lord and Savior.
Dude, he looked into our souls and he knew.
Of course he knew. You and I, in particular, refused to get any closer to him.
No, he kept telling us to budge up.
He kept telling everyone to budge.
I'm not getting any closer to you.
Yeah, he kept like, everybody getting closer. And you and I were on the outskirts as is. And we did not move. We were like,
I
not
took
interested.
Like half a step, and everyone else took like 3 steps.
Liz took a couple steps forward. I was good to go. I'm like, I'm not doing it.
The only reason I moved at all was because I was trying to blend in, but I was like, I'm not getting close to you. You'll rub off on me. I'll get infected.
Well, for me, it wasn't that I didn't want to, like, I'm not going to catch the Christ at this point. It was just like, no, I'm sick of this.
I'm done.
I just watched Petty Jesus Be Petty. I'm not interested in this anymore.
I kind of wonder what would have happened if we just walked away at that point. And been like, thank you, and just, like, walked away.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I cannot be here much longer.
I almost did. I was pacing like a caged animal.
I was kind of watching you, because I was like, if Josh goes, I'm just going to grab Liz and let's go. Like, I'm like, I can stand here for a couple more minutes. But you did, halfway through his long-ass spiel, you started backing back and forth. You took like 4 steps, turn around, took 4 steps, turn around. I was like, I was expecting you to make a break for it any moment.
I'm not really usually a pacer. I pace when I get really agitated or when I'm like...
No, it was over. It was done. You said it was going to be an hour. We're on an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes.
I have to wake up and go to work at, like, crazy early the next morning.
Because you were supposed to be dropping me off at 9, not us leaving at 9. And it was just like, we were like, no, we are tired and do not want to be here and do not want to hear.
And his Jesus message, like, I know it's not going to work on me, so I don't want to be here. But I'm trying to be respectful enough not to leave, so I didn't.
No, I mean, really, the only reason I didn't walk away is because I didn't want to disturb the mood for everyone else there. Like, I was not trying to piss on these people's parade.
Right.
And the fact that I think the people in charge should be embarrassed of themselves for the second half, the front half of, the story of Alex and how she missed her opportunities and now she wasn't properly saved. Like, I'm okay with that. That's your belief system, cool. And you're just reminding people. But then when you go to this, I mean, like, that could be considered fear-mongering, kind of.
It is, but it's
nowhere near the scale that the back half was, where I was just literally I was hungry when I got there. I was not hungry. I was like, I don't want anything.
Yeah.
And like also too, like that front half where it was still like kind of like what I think is like acceptable means, and who am I to say? But I say, I was like, this is how I know I really have no religious needs in me.
The time I realized that I had no religious means in me was when I was in chemo. When I got cancer, I was in chemo. I had radiation. I had all that, and it's one of the worst times of my life. But
it's one of, okay, damn.
But at no point did I ever think about God at all. Literally, never. Just didn't even think of it because I'm not religious. I know that. But you would think maybe you'd have
right, atheist in the foxhole.
I thought about it when I was basically almost done, and I realized I had not thought about it once.
Wow, I think anyone would think about it.
I did not. And it was funny, going in, I thought, maybe this will be one of those, like, test of my real faith things. Didn't think about it again.
Really?
So, like, I'm cognizant of this sort of thing, but while I was actually going through it, was not on my mind. Was not a concern for me.
Because...
So that's if I wasn't sure before, and I was. But had I not been, I was at that point positive.
For me, like, I didn't have to make any, like, big, strong declarations or whatever, because I didn't have crazy asshole religion growing up. It was really groovy, and, like, I would still go to church there tomorrow, because it's not about, because they're not very I mean, they read from the Bible, but it's basically, like, how can we use this book to inspire us to be better people? Or to find a connection. And they say the word God, but when it's not this crap.
No, I know. But that's my...
And so, like, I mean, because okay, every time I hear, like, a siren, I say a little prayer. It's an automatic. Like, something came up when I was, like, 10 or 11. And it's like, I hope, basically that the siren gets there as fast as it can, doesn't get the bishop again. And, I say the word God. And it's like, it's an automatic prayer I do every single time.
Yeah, I just don't have that, which is fine.
And because I don't feel bad saying, a little prayer for someone else. I would feel guilty, like, praying for myself today. Because I'm like, you have obviously, like, said over and over that you don't really believe in this actual dogmatic structure. Like, I think I would, like, if I had chemo, I would think about praying, but then I would feel guilty about it. Because like, I have totally, like, renounced this past, like, not that I've renounced it, whatever is out there.
But you turned away from it a long time ago.
Well, it's just, doesn't fit.
Yeah, no, I got you.
Doesn't fit.
Yeah.
I'm much more like Cosmos energy, like, nothing in particular, just kind of like whatever's out there is out there. It's just not worth the time and effort that we spend on it. There's so much to do here.
But yes, I'm with you. I am positive that this pastor guy could see that neither of us were buying what he was selling. So it was a little awkward because I was like, I don't want to be...
I didn't want to look away from him when he looked me in the eye. And I tried to keep a really neutral face. And he asked us to bow our heads and pray, and I bowed my head.
Yeah, I did put my head down.
Like, I was trying to stay at the back and not distract anyone else. Mm-hmm. Like, I was not there, like, snorting or ribbing people or, like, making faces at him. I was very much like, this is y'all's deal. I would hate it if he came in, like, one of my, like, pagan feminist ceremonies, like,
Yeah.
But he knew, but I also don't, like, and, like, yeah, so then he asked for people... Mm-hmm. He told us to, like, bow our heads and who had accepted Jesus for the first time properly in their heart that night. So, of course, like, 5 or 6 impressionable, probably freaked out by their peers, teenagers, were saved. Mm-hmm. And that's another thing. When people say that, like, someone's saved, I'm like, you don't fucking know that. And you don't get to call that off of someone you've never met or talked to. Mm-hmm. You don't know if that little boy's been saved.
Yeah.
Don't tell me that boy's saved.
There is a contingent of the religious who even buy some of this stuff who agree with you. Like, that's not how any of that works.
No.
Like, you can't just do that.
No, I mean, I have had people, like, say to me, I'm saved, and I'm like, I'm sure you are, son. Like, cause, like, they're like, this, and this, and this, and this, and this. I'm like, damn, like, you have gone in with an open mind and heart, and you have thought about it, like, independently of what your parents told you. Yeah, you're in that religion, People are like, I say the same things my parents said because I'm too scared to think outside. I'm like, it doesn't matter what you do or say. To me, you're not truly part of that religion because you haven't actually used your brain to become part of that religion. You're just aping what was done before you. Mm-hmm. Like, that pastor probably isn't really religious as far as I'm concerned. He's just repeating fortune cookies.
But with this, we were finally finished, and it was great. We finally got to walk away. We almost left a comment card, but there were too many people.
Oh, and so then they asked who was saved, then they asked people who the rededications. There's another, 6, 7 young people. Mm-hmm. And they, went off by themselves with other pastors to be prayed over and preached at. So then we leave, we get around, and there's this huge table with the comment cards, and everyone's leaving the comment card. And I could not fucking figure out how to get out of there.
Oh, yeah, we were lost for a second.
I went to the outside, I looked, it wasn't obvious. I went around the corner, I realized I was coming back the way we came. Mm-hmm. And, this was not the beginning. They let us out at a different spot. And I was I literally was, starting to, not quite claustrophobic, because I'm not actually claustrophobic, but I feel like I was a little claustrophobic. You
were a little lost. You're I don't like being lost here in the woods.
I was it is time to go. There's no fucking exit sign. No one is telling me where to go. You gave me directions the whole time through, but you can't tell me how to get out. Oh, I did get busted at the throne room.
Oh, yes, you did.
The very last minute.
Tell the story real quick.
I was taking the picture quietly, I was kind of holding it up, because I've been holding it around my stomach, just taking pictures. But I held this one up, and one of our vaguely militant guards came over to me, and she was like, oh, there's no photography. She's like, there's no recording. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I'm not recording. Take a picture. And she was like, oh, there's no pictures. I was like, oh, no, I'm sorry. She said no flash photography.
I was here for this. You were next to me at this point.
Yeah, and she was like, no, she should have said that it's all copyrighted. And I was like, do you want me to delete it? She's like, no, it's okay. As I have a couple more, I had 100.
You had 100 more.
She was like, I didn't see tickets, all right. And I was like, damn, it always pays to be, agreeable. See, we have opposite tackles on things.
I'm typically agreeable. I just tend to be...
Undiplomatic about
it sometimes. But we were finally leaving, and I remember Liz's big takeaway, at least in the moment, and I haven't talked to her about it since, but her big takeaway in the moment was, and I think this is a good summary of the whole event, was, I can't understand what it's like to live in that much fear.
Dude, she said that, from the video, station number 2.
Yeah, and it only got worse.
No, and, she's like, I can't even imagine living in that much fear. Yeah. And the whole time, her jaw just got a little, lower. Mm-hmm. She was like...
She became a snake at the end, her entire jaw.
Yeah, no, she could have swallowed Petty Jesus. And she was just like, what... how do you operate and function with this much fear in your brain? And I was like, you don't, and that's the point. Because this is... My thing is, you're so caught up in this fabricated world, and even if it is real, you don't know when it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. But you are so caught up in this fake bullshit about, sitting in a house in a mansion in the sky with a guy with a beard and petty Jesus, that you're not paying attention to what's down here. You're not thinking ahead for the earth. Like, you're sitting there, all right, pastor, whatever your fucking face is, you just saved 7 people, but you're drinking out of, the 10th plastic bottle, judging by all the other plastic bottles at your feet. You really think if there's a God, he's okay with that? No recycling, no conservation, no thinking. As long as you go to church and talk to Jesus. Because this is literally this is how colonialism worked. Was they came over with a flag and guns, then they brought their religion, it's all guilt religion, that basically tells you don't worry about all the shit that happens to you in life because you're going to go to heaven. Mm-hmm. So don't worry about the fact that we just raped and pillaged your country. Have some Jesus, and you're going to heaven, and it's fine that you don't have your own country anymore.
All right, so...
That's my take on that.
We're essentially done. Let's quickly talk about our best and our worst.
Okay, best was definitely overall production.
Yes.
Now, the script is pretty decent.
Yeah.
For what they were doing.
Yeah.
Obviously, I didn't agree with any of it. The only problem with it was in the actors and delivery.
Yeah.
But they had lights, they had sound, they had microphones, they had some pretty impressive sets.
Yeah.
That fire lake was incredible. I'm going to call the church and ask who built that because I need directions. I'm like, hey, remember the hell lake?
Yeah.
I really want one of those.
I want one of those. So my best is going to be less any particular part of it, but just the fact that we were not very first, I think was a little bit funner. Because as we're moving through, we occasionally hear these horrible sounds, and we don't know what they're about yet. And so we're like, what the hell is coming up? And then, of course, as we're continuing, we can hear past sounds, but now we already know. So you get both sides of it. We're like, I don't want to know what that is, but I'm going to find out.
But it's coming up.
Versus, oh, I can hear the ambulance again. I know where we are.
Right.
I know where someone else is, at least. So that was
so they must have 5 or 6 Alexes to walk you through.
But it was kind of fun just to have that double-sided nature to it.
No, it was, the concept of watching a play as you walk through the woods is great.
Yeah.
If it had been almost any other subject...
So do you remember what your worst is?
I kind of already said it a couple times. Mm-hmm. But if I had to sum it up, the worst is just you think about this all the time. You're reading about it all the time. You're talking about it with your friends all the time. But you still don't just see the fallacy.
Yeah.
That, you have to do this thing and think this thing and not think this thing and not do this thing and all of this stuff. And you are ruling out so many people. And you are okay with a person who has the ability to save you.
Yeah.
And save these people. Throwing someone's soul into the eternal. And you already kind of went off about this too. Mm-hmm. But for me, it's not just it's you have a problem with belief in hell. My thing is hell should be obviously reserved for Hitler.
Even then,
and then you know what too? Because when I was 12, I was throw all the rapists there. Now I'm damn, no one deserves that shit.
For eternity?
Literally.
Eternity is a long time.
Now, I kind of like the idea, it'd be great if, it was basically an ecclesiastical jail, where you went and you spent your sentence from the things you did in life, and then you, got reborn.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
That's why I say, I'm just talking about the eternal hell.
No, but
finding your belief.
Fucking Sisyphus forever over there.
Right, that's horrible.
That's not nice.
My worst is gonna be... It's hard for me to choose. The gassing.
That was terrible.
The gassing is...
That was terrible. Do you know what that reminded me of? You want to finish how it was the worst for you?
I'm done.
Well, because
I don't think I need to elaborate on how the gassing was the worst.
Because literally it reminded me of the stories where... when they were gassing the Jews, but they would lead them into a big huge room with shower heads and even hand them soaps and washcloths and act like it was a shower. And instead of water, the gas came out to kill them. Mm-hmm. That's even worse than just gassing somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, and they didn't quite go that far with this one. But
no, but
just the concept of putting us in a shipping container and gassing
us. The whole, putting us in and, stirring the gases, but not really,
yeah.
Fuck you.
And so that's fucking crazy.
No, because the whole time I was they're really doing this.
Uh-huh.
And, maybe if you don't bother to learn about history or politics or culture or anything because the only thing you hear about is Jesus Bible, you don't, immediately see, how really incredibly wrong that is. That's my worst.
Okay. So now let's talk about things that are like this.
What the fuck is like this? I mean,
I actually had the same thing, because that's what we always try to do, is talk about something that's similar, that's better, usually. I can't think of a comparable experience.
I have never experienced one. I do know that there are things like hell houses, which is, I guess is what I thought this was going to be.
Yes, it's more or less, it's just a hell trail, but...
Right, but, you know, so they have, instead of having a haunted house, they have, like, a house like the Seven Deadly Sins, or, like, you know...
Which I still want to go to.
I would go to one of those, because nothing could be as bad as this fucking thing.
Yeah, but I could not think of anything that would be even remotely comparable. If you want to figure out what this is like, I don't know, just go to a regular haunted house. It's about like a haunted church or something.
Right. I mean...
Ooh, St. Mary's, it's the scariest.
Take the guy, because there's always one guy somewhere in your friend group that, like, laughs nervously at scary parts of the movie, and, like, almost cries. Yeah. Take them to a regular haunted house, and that's how I felt at this thing.
But I could not think of anything you could compare this to.
No.
It is, if there's anything to be said, it is a possibly unique experience that you could not get.
Because, like, even when you're in the realm of reality and science and fact and, or, you know, I don't even say science, but just, like, rationale and fact and, like, what's in front of you, when you are talking about consequences, you never pull these punches. Officer fucking Friendly came to my school, you know, when I was in elementary school and talked about all the bad things. And you watch even, like, Unsolved Mysteries and all that shit. None of them pulled any of these punches like this. Yeah. This was just, like, the most 60 minutes true crime show. And I am a huge true crime. None of them make you try to manipulate your feelings this badly.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, this is a whole nother level, and it's disgusting.
So now let's talk about next week.
Okay, I get to say what's next week.
Kat, what are we doing next week?
Next week, we are Facing the Giants.
Facing the Giants is a movie.
Okay.
Directed by Alex Kendrick.
Okay.
It's a movie about football. November's coming up. It's going to be around Thanksgiving. It's a football movie.
I usually like foosball. Am I going to like this one?
I don't know. But Hillary will be back, of course.
How's it religious?
It's religious, too. Okay. It's just also a football movie.
Okay. That's a new one.
There's very little to really set up for this one. Alex Kendrick is a pretty popular Christian filmmaker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you said his name like it was a thing that people might pick up on.
People may pick up on it if they're at all familiar with the scene. But Hillary will be back. We'll talk about Facing the Giants. It'll be great.
You're going to do some religious sports ball.
Religious sports ball! Oh, fun fact about religious sports ball movies. They never know how the sport is played. They apparently don't understand sports, despite making movies about them all the time.
No, I can't. I can't watch when they do when they have like a 6 down. I'm like, no.
Yeah, they'll have like a 6 down, or a basketball team will have 7 people on each side. And you're like, how? It's not that complicated.
No, I can't. You know what? The only sport I think that doesn't get fucked up is baseball.
But you still like fucking baseball.
I don't know. All the white dudes in charge of things know about baseball.
And remember, if you like the show, please give us some of those 5-star reviews in whatever podcast app or service you are using, and tell your friends about us any way that you can, because we need you.
5 stars!
We brought on special guest Kat to try to entice you to give us those stars.
Give them the stars or else.
Links to everything are in the description of this episode. That includes a website where you can go to send us a comment and or a question for our mailbag segment, which we have not had yet.
I'll think of a question for your mailbag segment.
Send it to me.
5 stars, we'll give you petty Jesus.
And as always, thank you so much for listening.
Bye.
You're not going to thank them?
No. Oh, I have to thank them too?
Yeah.
They're welcome. You're welcome.
All right, excellent. Bye.
Bye.